name is EJ, and alongside with me is the man and truly the great one, Eric. Hello, buddy, and how are you doing?
I'm good. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well.
I hope so as well. And thank you for everyone that's tuning in on Mixer, YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. Um, and I do want to start off the show real quick before we get into the review for Impact Wrestling. I do want to thank everyone that has tuned in. If they can't catch us live, you can, of course, listen to us on um, Google Podcast, iTunes. I have them all down. SoundCloud, Anchor FM, which is going to be a sponsor. This will be our first official sponsor of the show. So we're going to be doing a read for the next show. We'll be getting a script for that. But I do want to thank you all for listening because the numbers are really good. I was shocked that 2 weeks in a row we didn't lose any. I mean, it's been at a consistent level, and hopefully we can continue to grow because this is a growing promotion. It's under good hands, and we're on the forefront talking about Impact Wrestling, and people should be talking about Impact Wrestling. I know you got AEW, I know you got WWE, but you should not forget about Impact Wrestling. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, we thank you all for tuning in. We thank you all for listening. Now let's get right into it. It's the Impactful Review. And I'll tell you right now, last week was the first show on Twitch and Pursuit. So there was a lot of expectations as far as what they were going to do, the content, how they're going to handle things, commercial breaks, all that. And we could agree that it didn't disappoint. I think they did a great job handling that. Now, since the first show, I noticed that the Twitch channel's been busy. I've been in there watching, listening, talking with the viewers, and basically just talking Impact Wrestling and a little bit of AEW, but mostly Impact. I don't know if you've been in there. Have you been in there and noticed anything different with the channel since the first episode?
Well, I did notice a lot more traffic on the channel
Mm-hmm.
since that first episode, partially because of um, that, and I think because of them doing the replays where you're able to actually catch it, during the week as well. So I think they're doing good with the Twitch channel, especially with um, how the traffic is going at this point.
Yeah, and it definitely is a good traffic because they were having numbers like close to 100, and since then it's been doubled. I think the most at one time for watching a pay-per-view from 2010, it was at well over 300. So that a big jump for that channel, and it's been awesome talking Impact Wrestling with the viewers when I'm in there. So you had that first episode. You had a lot of things happen, and we're going to see if they're going to continue on because this is like the second episode coming out of Homecoming. And we're going to talk about later on the next pay-per-view that they have announced. They haven't announced the date yet, but we do have some of the details, and we'll get into that at the end of the show. The few things that happened in the last episode, a brief summary, and then we'll go into the next show. The first thing was Tessa Blanchard. I mean, of course, she wants revenge on Gail Kim for costing her the Impact Knockouts Championship. So she had a match with Callie Collins. It was a squash match. And then using Gail Kim's finisher to get the victory, sending a message to her. So we'll see if they followed up on that. Eddie Edwards had an exchange with Eli Drake about hardcore wrestling. When Eddie Edwards said he was finally, done, he got his revenge on Moose for what Moose has done to him. And of course, Eli Drake had to chime in about hardcore wrestling, and we'll see how they follow up with that. Of course, Sam McCallahan and try to get the new X Division champion Rich Swann to come home, and I guess we still don't know what that means, but we'll get into that. Also, Impact promised Brian Cage his rematch once he was done with Killer Cross. Cage thought he was screwed. Of course, he went on a rampage, but Impact promised him a shot. But later on that night, Killer Cross and Impact went on one-on-one and no DQ match, and Killer Cross gets a huge win over Impact. Of course, with the assistance from Moose, but nonetheless, that was last week's All right, and I mean, we both had really good reviews on that. Let's see if they keep up that momentum, and let's go right into it. Um, to start off the show, it was KM and Caleb Conley as a singles match. It only went a few minutes because immediately Josh Matthews says, "Oh, let's cut to the backstage where Brian Cage was going on a rampage looking for Johnny Impact." Um, and he, of course, eventually one of the guys said that he Impact was out in the ring. Brian Cage made his way to the ring, and he goes berserk, attacking everyone from KM, Caleb, and Falaba. After the insult on them three, he demanded for Impact to come out to the ring and explain why Killer Cross gets his shot before him. Because of course we were wondering why he went off, but that was the reason. Johnny Impact responded, and while on the ramp, he was then attacked by Killer Cross and Moose. Then right after that, Impact is sitting there lying on the ramp. And what does Brian Cage do? Goes out in the ring, drags him into the ring. But then that prompted Killer Cross and Moose to come back out and attack them all. At the end of this segment, they're laying on top of the champion, the Cage. I mean, what an interesting way to start off the show. My question to you is, how did you feel about the way they started this off?
I think it was actually a great way to do it because not only did they start it with a match, but it was a great way to start it with in-ring action, but then still involve um, the biggest storyline on the show. So it was. I think it was a great way to start the show. It showed continued to show the rage of Brian Cage being upset about not being the world champion, and then it also continued the whole drama with Johnny Impact and Killer Cross as well, and the whole way that whole three-way thing is going right now.
Yeah, it seems like you said, you made this point too last week, that it seems like they're trying to they're going to end one and start another. So the
Hmm.
possibility of Cage winning, uh, winning the title, they already set that up. Um, I thought it was a unique way, and you know what it kind of reminded me of was the old days of WCW, because you would see things like that where they would have a match, and I know WWE occasionally does it, but it seemed more like of the old school Nitro days, where you had the match, and it would be two good workers. They're just performing a match, and out of nowhere they throw something in the middle of it to build on the storyline. It was like watching. It reminded me of the days of that. I don't know if you got that same feeling when you saw that
Yeah,
segment. Um,
it did.
hmm Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I was just saying it did. It reminded you of the days where um like you say in WCW where they would start off with something and then they'd be like, "Oh, there's something happening in the back. Let's cut to the." Yeah, it reminded you of that whole time frame in WCW,
And I like things
especially
like that.
when yeah, especially it reminded you of when they first brought in the when the NWO first came in
Oh, the
and
outsiders.
how
Yeah.
that stuff happened.
Yeah, it definitely. I remember the days where they cut to the back. I remember the one time where they threw. And this is going off subject, but Rey Mysterio like lawn darted him into the trailer,
Hmm.
and it's like stuff like that, like attacking people in the back. It's good. I love things like that. Um, and get them Jones to chat. Of course, for people that are listening to this later, we are live on Mixer, YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope. So if you want to be able to chat with us live, you can. Get them Jones in chat says, "I'm just glad they didn't go the obvious WWE route and make a tag match with Impact and Cage versus Moose and Cross." No, that's the brilliant part of Impact Wrestling. They have a very unique way of telling this story. A lot of it's old school. A lot of it's a little, innovative, because I like their cinematic vignettes they do, like what they did with Eddie Edwards in the Nut House or an Insane Asylum, or whatever is the correct
Hmm.
way of saying it. I mean, they have a very unique way of telling the story, and that's what I love about Impact Wrestling. You have anything to add to that?
No, I feel the exact same way. I do like the fact because it's kind of hard to, in my opinion, book two rivals in a tag match against other rivals unless somebody's getting the old screw job.
Mm-hmm.
So I think unless they were gonna do something like that, I think Get 'em Jones is exactly right. I think it was better for them to book it exactly the way they did because it also gave Brian Cage something to do basically until after the whole match next week with Killer Cross and Impact.
Mm-hmm. Well, going on with Cross and Moose, speaking of them, how do you feel about them pairing up Cross and Moose again? Because you know the history they had. They were kind of like, I guess the better for a better term, lackeys for when Austin Aries was still in the company. Now he's gone. They kind of broke him up, but now you see him paired up again. How do you feel about that?
Well, the I think it's a good pairing. I think that it was never really that they were broke up. They just both had their own issues going on at the time. And so I think that it was always in the back of my mind that one day they were going to be back together. They were just, each was trying to take care of their own or trying to do their own thing. So but I kind of saw it coming that they were eventually going to be teamed up again.
Yeah, it could go because it's an unusual pairing, but opposites attract. I mean, but the
Hmm.
common goal is that they're both heels, and I mean, I guess they could team up. To pretty much take over the company. But overall, like I said, I like the pairing. Um, I like Moose altogether. Moose just, I think you could pair him up with anyone. Actually, he just has that way to be able to, like, no matter what you throw at him, he's able to adapt. I see
Hmm.
that in a lot of Moose, and coming from a guy that's was a football player, and then coming into the world of professional wrestling, some people get hit, some people can't. Like Monty Brown in the early days of TNA, he, I mean, he was a really good wrestler. A lot of people underestimated him as far as his mic skills. I thought he was good. And then you have Mongo McMichael back in WCW. He was just awful in every way possible. But Moose seems to get it. He can adapt in any role that you put him in. Um, Obviously, there's something there. Could it be he that could get the title? Or is it Cage that get the title? It will be remain to be seen. But I do enjoy the pairing, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do in the future with them too.
Yeah, and see, I watched Moose back when he was in Ring of Honor, and to see his growth from when he first debuted to where he is now, especially his growth in ring and on the mic. Because when Moose first started in Ring of Honor, his mic skills were atrocious at best. But you can see how much he has grown and how much he wants to improve.
Yeah, I've seen his work in Ring of Honor, not as much as you did. I saw a good bit of it. Um, but yeah, I'll tell you now, like his time in TNA, I got to start saying Impact. Everyone slept saying, even a wrestler in the middle of a promo said TNA and corrected
Mhm.
himself immediately. I guess people still just got to get used to that. Yeah, it just he's doing a great job. I like him more of as a heel. It just comes off natural for him. There's some people
Mhm.
like Ric Flair came off natural as a heel. Didn't work well when he was a face. It just didn't seem right. He seemed uncomfortable. Moose seems like a guy that is comfortable being a heel, and I think he could do great work as a heel. And pairing up with Killer Cross, which is a guy that is incredible as a heel himself, I mean, would probably only bring out the best in him even more.
Exactly.
All right. Well, now that we're done with that opening segment. It was a great segment to start off the show. Let's go right into the first official match of the show. And that was, of course, Eddie Edwards versus Ethan Page. Of course, this is the first match Ethan Page has really had without his, mentor. And we'll get into that later on in the show. Going up against Eddie Edwards, fresh off his first match since the victory at Homecoming against Moose. Um, Before the entrances, of course, Eli Drake came out and sat beside Callis and Matthews to do commentary for this match.
Mhm.
Um, Overall, pretty good wrestling match. I mean, it started off that way, but the good wrestling match didn't matter because Eddie Edwards, towards the end, was tempted and did hit Ethan Page for Kenny the Kendo. I can't believe that's real name, and for the DQ loss. Um, Despite the DQ ending, what did you think of the match, real quick? We'll get into that real quick. What did you think of the match?
I think it was a good overall match. It wasn't like match of the night by any means, but it was a good overall match. It helped continue the story between Eddie and Eli Drake because
Mm-hmm.
of the disqualification. So I don't hate the disqualification. Just because I mean, and especially with the aftermatch promo that Eli did, the whole match kind of made sense. Especially playing into that promo. So it was a good match, a solid match, just not a great one, not a steal the night kind of match.
Well, yeah, it was obviously the main point of that match was Eli Drake, Eddie Edwards.
Hmm.
Eli Drake, doing a great job throughout the match with his commentary. He is such a great speaker. Good guy on the mic. Of course, during the match, he was like trashing hardcore wrestling. He called
Hmm.
Edward, I love this, he called Edwards a second rate Tommy Dreamer. That poor guy gets crap because if you're a fan of Busted Open on Sirius XM, Tommy Dreamer catches a lot of shit from Bully Ray or Bubba Ray Dudley. Um, it always rips on him about being fat. And then here you are, these guys are doing the same thing. I know it's all a rib, but I think it's funny that Tommy Dreamer just can't catch a break. He always gets his balls busted. But yeah, so he also went on that Edwards is crazy for talking to a kendo stick. This is some of the things he was saying. But he did give Eddie Edwards accolades for his accomplishments in Impact Wrestling. And now he says that he has fallen since going down the hardcore wrestling road. Um, I mean, I think it was good because again, it was a decent match, but the whole idea was it was the next chapter of the Eddie Edwards Eli Drake storyline. And obviously, Eli Drake wants to end hardcore wrestling. You got a
Hmm.
guy, Eddie Edwards, accomplished wrestler. He was the world champion, won many titles, tag titles in Impact Wrestling, and now he's going down the hardcore route. And Eli doesn't like that. Obviously, that's how they're going to pair them off into a program. Is that Eli Drake is in order to get rid of hardcore wrestling, you got to take out the people that are technically the hardcore wrestlers. How did you feel about that? Like the whole commentary with Eli Drake throughout the course of the match.
Well, I actually, Goodham Jones said it perfectly in the chat. He said that that the match was slightly overshadowed by Eli Drake on commentary, but because of it being storyline driven, it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I completely think that it could have been better. The match could have been better, but it was slightly overshadowed by the as good as Eli Drake is on the mic. But again, it worked because it continued the storyline.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Like, yeah, it was completely built on that.
Hmm.
And the match was again. It showed in the beginning of the match he was doing a good wrestling match, and even there were parts where Eli Drake said, "Oh, that's a good move. Why can't he do that more often?" This is the this is the side that was good about him. And then he would go off at the end of the match and hit Ethan Page with Kenny the Kendo. So it did its job to tell the story that he went down the hardcore route. Eli doesn't like it. He
Hmm.
criticized him, but of course gave him his accolades, and then even paid him a couple of compliments of the actual wrestling moves that he performed in the match. So overall, I know it was overshadowed, but it told a story, regardless of if it was a few
Right.
minutes. It did its job. That's what it did.
Exactly. Exactly.
Of course, after the DQ, Drake grabs the mic and he had more to say. This time directly to Eddie Edwards. After the match, he approached the ring and asked Eddie whatever happened to him. Why did he have to go the hardcore route? He went on to say he went down that road. Ever since he went down that road, he has not been near a championship. And then he finally challenged him to drop the kendo stick and find that fire he once had that made him great. I like that part. That was probably the best part of it. What did you think the overall role of Eli from the beginning to the end of that? Because obviously Eddie did his part. He showed why Eli is despising the road he went. But obviously it was more on Eli than Eddie. How did you feel about it?
I think it was actually a great. He actually did a great job because if you could tell, if when they would flash back to um, Eddie looking at Eli Drake during that whole promo, it was kind of like he was planting seeds in the back of Eddie's mind. So Eddie was continued. Eddie, like you could see Eddie thinking about what he was saying. So I think it. I mean, overall, it was excellent because it continued the storyline and it made Eddie look like, okay, well, what if he's right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's going to get a point where it's going to be self doubt in Eddie
Hmm.
Edwards. You're going to see that, yeah. And that's hope. And, that's us speculating, but it would be awesome if it goes into that little deeper role. You know what? Yeah. You know what? I haven't won a championship since I went down this. It was that obsession to beat people like Moose. It's that constant obsession that took him down that hardcore road. And here he is. He hasn't accomplished anything. So, yeah, I do like that. That's a good observation. Um, Again, we'll see where they go from it. But overall, I think they did a great job continuing this storyline. Um, and obviously, given to what we saw that we will be covering that later on in the show, I think it'd be an incredible payoff to this one. Get 'em Jones in chat says that promo rivaled it was a Miz promo. It
It
definitely
did.
does. Yeah, he's so good on the mic. Very well, I don't think he's underrated. I don't think he's considered that. Um, I just can imagine if he would have made it, or if he would go to WWE. I think he would fade away. They would kill him. He's better off where he's at, especially where the way management is right now with Impact Wrestling. I can see him. They're going down the right path, and he'll be there for the rise, and that'd be his way. On his way out to help this company build to where it should be, where it should have been all along. All right. Do you have anything else to add to that?
Nope.
All right. Let's go right into the next thing, and that's of course the woman, that thick mama pump. The woman I on Twitter to another promotion recommended. Jordan Grace going up against Dark Alley in a one-on-one competition. Of course, Alley was able to gain a little bit of offense in the beginning of the match, but that didn't last too long because once Grace caught her with a series of suplexes, it was all over from there. It was pretty much a squash. It was a great display of power shown by Grace during the match. After a few minutes of offense on Alley, Grace gets the victory with the pump handle driver. And this is just a very brief thing we should discuss, but I want your opinion on it. First of all, what did you think of the match? And well, you know what? Just answer. I got a question after that. I'm sorry. That was my
Oh,
fault.
okay, no problem. I thought that it was actually a great showcase of Jordan Grace.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's leading to something else. The whole Alley losing and being dominated is leading to something else. With the whole Rosemary, Alley, and Sue Young storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that's where that's going. So it was perfect for what I think it's leading to.
Yeah, and uh, I agree with you on that. The one thing I do like is because for people that don't know Jordan Grace, she really shined back at All In last September in that battle royale with the men, and of course Brian Cage was the one that buckle bomb power bombed her,
Hmm.
and the way she was able to bounce back from a move from Brian Cage like that, that's like wow. I mean, she is the real deal. I've followed her since I've been back into wrestling. She actually follows us on Twitter. Um, I would love to get her on the show just to talk about, because I guess like her rise, because it's a different approach from every other woman. I mean, she's a thicker woman. She owns it, but man, does she have power? I wouldn't fuck with her. That's that's for damn sure. But now, very talented wrestler, very talented wrestler, and
Yes,
I would
she
like
is.
this, and I like the pairing with Kira Hogan. Um, it's a good introduction for her in the company because she's still fairly new. She's only been in at least going on a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would like to see where they go with Ali on this. I mean, obviously the thing is right now her and Rosemary. Rosemary's back, but I know Jordan Grace would be in that mix, and her and Allie would be in the program. This was like that building block to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, my one question though, because I mean, we both enjoy her. What do you see from her about a year from now, as far as Jordan Grace in Impact Wrestling?
Um, Over the next year, I definitely see. I see honestly a rivalry with either Tessa or Taya over the Impact World Women's Championship, and I do see the possibility of her actually winning it.
I could see that too, but one thing I'm wondering is she going to go the round of the intergender, which she has done in all around the indie promotion. She kind of did that. I'm wondering if they're going to, in a way, because she is much stronger than the women on that roster. I'm not saying in a disparaging way, just she's a very powerful woman, and I could see in a way being like China. Like we're going to go back at least 20 years, and she could start competing in the men's division. I don't know. That's why I see more than her. She might have the knockouts title before then, but I see her about a year from now, or at least by the end of this year, that she could possibly compete with the men. I don't know if they'll go
Um,
down that route. That's
I see a possibility, but I don't know. Like you say, I don't know if they would go that route, just for the simple reason that a lot of people are uh, shying away from the whole women versus men thing because of like
in
everything
fear of
that's going on.
yeah,
Yeah, and with domestic violence and all that stuff lately.
yeah. I could say it, but you know what? The fact that there were so many promotions that handled it perfectly, and all in they handled it pretty good. Um, Ian, I can never say Riccaboni, whatever. From he was the commentator for Ring of Honor. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he said it perfectly. Like he was like saying this is. They say that there's some women that could do things better than men. This is one of the women that could pretty much do a lot more things better than men. If they do it the right way, it could possibly happen. But again, yeah, you might be right. The way the world is, it may not happen. But if she gets that knockouts title, who the hell is beating her? It's like equivalent to the Raw roster with Ronda Rousey. Well, I don't know if people agree with that one. So
No, because I do think that Ronda will lose that title eventually.
yeah,
Um, but I don't. I, I think that there would be a way, and they would find a way for her to lose the match. Um, so I don't see that there's just nobody that's gonna beat her because there's always gonna be a possibility of them finding a way for her to lose the match.
triple
I just
threat.
think, yeah, something like that. I
Yeah.
just think that I like I say, I think that even if she does move over to doing the intergender matches and
Mm-hmm.
competing in the men's division, I think that she would end up being it would be better overall for her to end up to be the women's champion before doing that.
Yeah, I can see her. Either way, I can see her being a knockout champion.
Hmm.
I'm just throwing that possibility because they kind of did it with All In. They did it in all the indie promotions. I'm just wondering, are they going to take that, go down that path? And
Right.
there's a way you can do it without making women look bad. She's not the average woman. She's a lot stronger than most of the women in professional wrestling today. That was my thing. Something that I would like to see in the next year, and it could possibly happen. You think it might not because of the environment, which I mean you probably are right. I'm just hoping they would. There's a way you can do it without making them look bad.
Right. It's
Uh,
still a possibility. I'm just reluctant to say that it's a definite that it's gonna happen.
oh, I'm sorry. Some reason. Oh, okay. We're good. We're still live. I'm sorry. Something popped up. Um, I'm not like most girls. Yeah, that's exactly how she does say that. All right.
Hmm.
So, do you have anything to add to that? Else we'll move along here.
No, I think that we basically covered everything about that part.
All right, and let's go right into it. Now, right after that match with Jordan Grace in Dark Alley, of course, Scarlett Bordeaux, she promised last week that she will pick the winner for her talent search. And now they go into the segment, and it's about time. She's going to reveal who's going to be the winner of her talent search. Of course, she chooses herself. Shocker there. But the one thing that came out of that segment is the fact that she said she's going to make her in-ring debut finally next week on Impact on Pursuit and Twitch. This was just a quick segment, but overall, you got two good things out of it. It should like this. The one thing I want to ask you, as far as Scarlett Bordeaux, what are your thoughts about how they brought her in? Because it wasn't like she came in wrestling right away. She said the basis of this whole thing was that making wrestling sexy again. Obviously, they're trying to play off to a little bit of the Attitude Era because it's been long forgotten. But in the process, you can still take her seriously as a professional wrestler because if you've seen her back in her days in the indie promotions, she is a great worker for a women wrestler. Well, I shouldn't even say it like that. That's as a wrestler. She's a good worker. What is it? How do you feel about how they brought her in? And what's up,
Well,
Fitz?
I think that they did it correctly because of the fact that um they didn't rush in in the way that they used her. So I think that was actually a great thing because, and especially with the bringing in Jordan Grace and the return eventually of Rosemary, I think that it allowed her time to do what they've been doing, which is actually building her character before she ever actually stepped into the ring.
And that is an
Um,
excellent way to bring someone in. I think that is the perfect way to bring someone in.
hmm
I mean, you kind of saw it back in the day with WWE, like Razor Ramon. Remember those vignettes they would do? Like,
right.
for some reason, they just kind of stepped away from that. But this was a unique take, especially on a women's angle. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, you were going along, and I actually cut you off. I apologize.
No, no, no. It's that's actually completely what I was thinking too. It was just the fact that it allowed them to do that, to build that character, like you
Mm-hmm.
say. For example, those old school ways of build doing the vignettes before a wrestler actually debuted. Even to the point of what the WWE has been doing with the NXT call ups, where they had these vignettes before they ever actually even appeared on the main roster. And
Yeah.
then with some of them, they would appear backstage or in other segments before they ever even made their in ring debut. For instance, Lacey Evans and EC3 haven't
Yeah.
actually wrestled yet, but they've made appearances and building, doing that whole thing of building their character before they ever even step foot in the ring. So I think that actually was a good way to bring her in because it allowed her to build that character before she ever even made her in ring debut. And then it would allow her wrestling to speak for itself.
Uh, Now I agree with you as far as that, but and it goes on with what you said though. It's funny because even though NXT went down that realm, but it's he said like how WWE is kind of doing the stuff Impact's been doing lately, and you've seen with the new call ups, yeah, they're kind of doing that. But you know what? This is like a whole different thing because yeah, they're so called interacting, I guess, with the roster, but it was just like a passerby. This one was literally
Hmm.
getting people involved. It was a unique way because people were sending in videos. They felt it was a legitimate contest, and it got people to gravitate to her. Like it was a very awesome way to get people engaged. They engaged with their audience, and in the
Hmm.
process, you got to see the character development, and you saw that for what she is. She's just an arrogant person I mean, oh, I'm going to choose the person with the most talent. Me. Yeah, how I kind of saw that coming. But dude, it was a perfect way to bring her in. I enjoyed it, and
Mhm.
I'm excited for her in-ring debut. And I wonder how they go on about that. I think they might go with a unique way of doing that as well. I don't know if you feel the same way about that, but I mean, I wonder who they would pair her up with. It, who do you think would be the if there would be anyone that you would want to see, or who do you think they will pair her up with? Who do you think would be the first person she would get into a program with?
Um, I don't really know. It would be hard to say. I think that potentially it could be someone like a to be in a full-fledged program. It could be somebody like Jordan Grace or um Rosemary, somebody that's not to say that they're not good looking, but to say that they're not the prototypical knockout or diva kind of female,
Oh,
so
okay.
that it would build off of her, trying to be the sexiest woman in Impact, that kind of thing.
Okay. Kind of like you right now, like you have like if you want to equate it to something, it's like that Randy Orton, like the fan favorite. I'm going to
Hmm.
take out your fan favorites. I will take out the ones that are quote unquote ugly. I guess that
Yeah.
actually that's pretty good take right there. Yeah, I can agree with that. Knowing the way they are going with this, that's a good possibility, and I would enjoy that. Let's see if they go with that. But yeah, I mean, it was a good segment overall. It was great development this whole time, and finally got the payoff. And now you get the big news that she's going to be in the ring debut
Hmm.
match next week in Mexico City, and dude, I can't wait. Do you have anything else to add? And we'll move along to the next match on the show.
No, that's it.
All right. Now we go from Scarlett Bordeaux announcing herself as the winner of her own very own contest into a match with, well, intertwined with the world title picture. Of course, that is Brian Cage versus Moose. Um, this was the longest match of the night as it went over 20 minutes, to be precise, 22 minutes with a couple commercial interruptions. Never a big fan of that, but it is what it is. Got to pay the bills, though, obviously.
Hmm.
Of course, the match started off. Cage started off strong with shoulder strikes to the abdomen of Moose. They matched blows until they made it to the outside of the ring. One good spot was the Cage power bomb with Cage power bomb Moose onto the apron and post because he kind of connected to the apron and post. Um, there was a couple of good spots out there. After the back and forth on the outside, they made their way back in where Moose gained the upper hand for a good portion of the match. Cage fired back when Moose ran towards him at the corner and ate a back elbow. Cage then delivers a clothesline, back elbow, and his own pop up power bomb. When Cage thought he had it won, Moose fired back and hit Cage with the go to hell from the top rope for a close fall, which I thought he was going to get the victory. Moose got frustrated, went out to the ring, and grabbed a chair. Cage dodges the chair shot, hits the jumping knee, and the drill claw for the 1, 2, 3. And there you have it, the winner of the match after a great 22 minutes, Brian Cage. My question for you, real simple. What'd you think of the match?
I thought it was an excellent match. I thought there were a couple of times where it looked like they were kind of hesitant, like the time that Moose whipped Cage into the ring post. Um, it looked like Cage kind of slowed himself down so that he didn't hit the ring post as hard, that kind of thing. Um, but overall, I think it was an excellent match. I think that it was back and forth. It told a great story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think it was an excellent way to carry the match and to um, keep that part of it going. I think that again, it showed that it showed the excellent in ring work between both wrestlers. So I think it was overall. I don't have any complaints except for, like I said, at certain points it looked like um either they either slowed down or whatever for whatever reason. So Other than that, I think it was great.
Yeah, it was a good match. And of course, I don't think it hurt Moose at all, taking a loss to Cage. Cage obviously is on a rise. Cage could possibly be the new Impact World Champion. We can find out. He's obviously going to get his rematch, but would it be against Killer Cross or would it be against Impact? Probably Impact, but because as we know that they announced next week that Killer Cross and Impact will be facing each other 1-on-1 for the title. But I mean, going back to the Brian Cage match, it was a good match. I get what you were saying about the power bomb. It was the soft and the blow. Yeah, there were some points where they slowed up. I think they went a little too quick, and I guess they got caught, and they were a little winded at first. I saw, about a quarter of the way in the match, they slowed it down, then they picked up the pace again.
Hmm.
But overall, I mean, the overall message is that Brian Cage is very upset about what happened. He's upset that he's not getting a rematch right away, and then of course being attacked by Moose, he's going to take it out on him because earlier in the night. Overall, I mean, you're right about the two things. They're both good workers, and they both shine. And the fact that you had a winner or loser, it didn't even matter because they both still they still shine. No, neither one took. They didn't look bad, and for the fact that Moose fought back and controlled a good portion of the match against Brian Cage, only to fall short, but still, it was enough to send a message. I mean, Moose will be champion again. He will be champion. But I think there'll be a couple of people along the way. But overall, it was a show stealer, and they picked the right match to be that long match. I mean, it had to be that one because even though we're going to be covering a couple other matches. Just this one, this is like you said, it's the main story. They're both attached to the main story. This had to go long for him, so it was perfect.
Right.
All right. Anything else to add?
No, I think that was it.
All right. Nothing else to follow up. All right. Let's get right into the next segment. Tessa Blanchard gets suspended. Hmm. I was shocked about that, but that next segment, Tessa went off about Gail Kim costing her the Knockouts Championship. After being asked the wrong question, she goes off on everyone backstage and attacks him. Gail Kim comes into it and tries to break it up, and Blanchard starts attacking her, grabbing a wrench in the process. Kim fights back, but Blanchard tosses her into the chain link fence and chokes her with a cord until she finally broke up by management. Of course, she gets in an argument with management, and management ends up suspending her, telling her to leave. Her not happy about it, but there you have it. A weird segment. I was actually surprised that they went this way. How do you feel about them suspending Tessa Blanchard?
I'm actually not surprised, just simply because I think what it's going to do is to build towards, again, like we stated previously, the in-ring return of Gail Kim. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really surprised with the suspension because I think that what's going to happen is that it's going to lead to some sort of confrontation, um, where Gail agrees to come back and fight Tessa.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, it's gonna be a match. It's just that it's a unique take. I'm wondering if there's something like about time away, time for another, doing another project, or is this their, like you said, it's their way to, even though Gail Kim's not a full timer, they can still build onto the story, and this is just a building block to their match, the one and only match.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So I was surprised you weren't. Again, I mean, I thought they were going to go another way with it, but this is I don't hate the fact that they went this way. I was surprised by it. Um, and of course, we pretty much answered the other question. So overall, with the whole Tessa thing, I'm looking forward to the match with Gail Kim because during the time I tapped out of wrestling, that's where she was huge in Impact. So I would like to see her, even though she's been removed, at least a couple years now. I'm sure she still has it, and I would like to see her, and it'd be probably her way of passing the torch on to Tessa Blanchard because
Right.
along with Jordan Grace, they're the future of not only women wrestling, but the Knockouts division in Impact Wrestling. All right, do you have anything else to add? Because we can move right along into the next match.
Nope, I think that's it.
Yeah, that was pretty quick, but again, it had to be covered because that was a major building block to the storyline. All right, let's go right on to the next scene. Rich Swann in the non-title match with Trey Miguel from the Rascals. Earlier in the night, they kind of did this that '70s show little segment.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was kind of funny. Um, that just shows their character. They're a little wacky. They did like that skit. I think it was Trey Miguel that he didn't get prom king, and of course, they tried to cheer him up, saying, "Hey, you got a chance for Rich Swann." Blah blah blah. And of course, that made him happy. But that's besides the point. Here we are, Trey Miguel in a non-title match with Rich Swann, the new X Division champion. They started a match with a bunch of wrist locks, and they both used acrobatic maneuvers to escape the holds. After the start, it was like 10 minutes of innovative offense by both competitors, which was expected. But of course, at the end of the match, Swan hit Miguel with this spinning heel kick and a 450 splash for from the second rope for the win. So, real quick, I'll ask you this, and then we'll get into what happened after the match. What did you think of the match between Rich Swan and Trey Miguel?
Um, for the match to be as short as it was, I think it was an excellent way to showcase both superstars. Um, I think it really allowed both to um, show their abilities and their acrobatics. Um, and then it. Of course, you still want, uh, especially with the storyline that's going on, you still want Rich Swann to get the win. So I think it was overall, it was. I don't have any complaints at all.
I'll tell you one thing. I have a complaint, believe it or not. And it's not what you think it is. My complaint is that I understand what they're trying to do with the GWN. You want to get subscriptions to that network by showing an old school match or something old from that time. They get people to subscribe to it. But you know what? I think this match with Rich Swan and Trey Miguel could have been even longer. If you would have took that segment out, you probably would have got another good 5 minutes out of them too.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's my only thing, my only problem. And it's not even on their ability. It wasn't even their match. It was the fact of how they did it. I wish they would just, pretty much took that segment out. So not only that, you had the LAX match with OVE. That was a short match, and we'll get into that next. That was my only thing I didn't like. I wish it could have been longer. I think another 5 minutes would have done even better for that. But overall, in that 10 minutes, they still put on a hell of a show. And I was
Exactly.
thoroughly impressed. Rich Swan, my God, he impresses me more and more every time. And Troy McGoldman, I'm not taking away from anything from him. He's an incredible talent too. But Rich Swan, man, every time I watch him, not only on there, but MLW, I mean, he never ceases to amaze me. He always does something innovative in every single match he does. And
Hmm.
I hope he's a champion for a while. That's my take on that. But yeah, like I said, that was my only gripe about it is that I wish they would have took out that classic segment and allowed these two matches that we're covering right now in the next one to go even longer. Um, Now, of course, after the match, Sammy Callahan, along with OVE, came out to the ring. They confront Swan in the ring, and Callahan once again tosses Swan the OVE shirt. He considers he asked him to come home again. Of course, Swan was considering it further, but LAX made their entrance and Swan exited, which set up for the final match we'll be covering. But before we get into that, what are your thoughts of the exchange between, of course, Sammy Callahan and Richard Swan? Because he keeps saying "come home." What does that mean? Besides the fact that oh yeah, he may be from Ohio, but then there's something more to it. Do you have a feeling of what it is, or I just want your take. What's your take on it?
I think that there's some kind of history there between the two. That they will probably reveal later. And probably when sometime around the time that Willie Mack comes back. But I think there's going to be something some kind of relationship that from previous that the two had that they're going to reveal, and I think it could actually be some huge twist. So I think we just have to wait and see where they're going to go with it. So the as far as the segment, I think the segment was great, because
Hmm.
especially with the timing of LAX's music hitting, it kind of left you at a cliffhanger of what would Rich Swann have done. But it's all about also seeing where they're gonna actually take the storyline to see how they're gonna to build it from here on out.
Yeah, and yeah, I get what you say with the whole. There's going to be a backstory. Now,
Mhm.
is there that possibility that they might turn him to the dark side, where he would become a heel and join OVE? Remains to be seen. But yeah, I get that. There's something for him to consider it. It's obviously there is a history. Could it be
Mhm.
something that he doesn't want to be known? Is it something that it doesn't matter? But they do have a history, and he didn't acknowledge it. Uh, Overall, yeah, I would like to see how they go about this. Um, but I'm excited because obviously you're going to get a one-on-one match, which again you got someone like Callahan, very different style from obviously Rich Swan, two different styles, but again we always say opposites attract, and one can complement each other in one way, in each other's way. I think you
Mhm.
would get a good program, a great match. Um, but yeah, again, there's a story. That's the thing. At the end of the day, it's a story, and they're telling a great story, right? So far, well, just a little bit that they told, it's still good. It's intriguing. People are intrigued. What are they talking about? Why keep saying to come home? The mystery is there. I like it so far. There's nothing I can say wrong about that, and nothing I can say wrong about the match. So overall, I mean, they knocked it out of the park as far as the match and as far as the build, the next build of the Rich Swan Sammy Callahan storyline. Um, do you have anything to add before we go on to the main event?
Nope.
All right, let's go right into it. The main event: LAX versus OVE. Of course, this is a non-title match, but if OVE gets this win, they have a chance that they get a fast track at the tag team titles. Of course, it was like I said, a relatively short match. For a match like this, I wish it could have been a little bit longer, but nonetheless, it was another 10-minute match to end the show. But great offensive maneuvers by both tag teams. Love the suplex into the power bomb from the Christ. I love that maneuver. That was a good spot. Of course,
Mhm.
LAX uses a combo rolling cutter, a running code breaker, a super kick, and the combo tilt roll face slam for the 1, 2, 3. Real quick, gotta ask you, my friend, even though it was a 10-minute match, what did you think of it?
I actually thought that it was a, even though it was a shorter match, it was an excellent match, an excellent way to showcase to showcase both teams and allow both teams to pull off some excellent moves, like you stated. The spots that you stated, just the overall flow of the match, and it showed you why that match, that feud was probably, one of, if not the best feud in Impact in 2017.
Yeah, they did
Um,
mention that in the commentary during the match. Um, Go on, Larry. Go on what you were saying. I'm sorry.
oh no, I was just that's why I was just saying it. You know, um, you know, this match could have easily been stole the show. Um, had it not been for the Cage and Moose match, and
Mm-hmm.
like you stated, had they not done the whole showing the clip, the lengthy clip from the GWN,
Mm-hmm.
it could have went a little bit longer, and had the match went any longer and allowed them to do any more, I think it would have been the match of the night.
Yeah, I agree with it. Like I said, that was the one thing that killed it for me. But overall, they didn't disappoint,
Nope.
and of course LAX gets the win. So OVE, I'm sure there'll be another program, but but what happened after this match, obviously OVE, it's gonna be a little bit before they get that tag title opportunity because after the match, LAX was greeted by the Lucha Brothers. They congratulated LAX and called them their family. But as they
Mhm.
were walking away, Ortiz disrespects them by yelling out, "Hey, if you ever want another ass whooping, just let us know, baby." And then, of course, Conan gets angry and says, "What the hell?" And, of course, the show ends. I mean, what? I'll tell you right now, we were pretty much, spoiled with a great match at Homecoming. I mean, now we're even more spoiled with a rematch because you know there's going to be a rematch. They just
Hmm.
planted a seed of that rematch. Would this time would they get dethroned? I don't know. But what did you think of that final segment? And going along with that, if it is a Lucha Brothers, who do you feel will be that tag team that would dethrone the tag team champions? Because they are at this point the longest reigning Impact tag team champions in history. Who do you think is going to be the team that do it? But first,
Um,
what did you think of that little quick final segment?
I think that the final segment was excellent because it allowed um it planted a seed, and so it was a great way to continue that because it planted that seed of what could happen, and where it's gonna go. So I think it was that segment was actually excellent. It was spot on, which it's something that I saw coming from the beginning anyway. Um,
Yeah, it does seem like the Lucha Brothers, like there was still a little bit of bitterness because the fact that they thought they could have beat them and they didn't come out with the titles out of Nashville with the tag team titles. Um, but get him Jones in check because I want to get your opinion on this. He said on Twitch it was the right direction reaction for Konnan to have, but it felt kind of cheesy. I guess because the way he said it. Could it have been more authentic and felt more real if he would like cursed and they bleeped it? Could it have been something like a little edgy, or do you feel like they could have? Did he? Do you feel like there was the right reaction, or do you feel they could have, made it more authentic and more real?
I think that it. I think honestly that it was the right reaction. I think
Mm-hmm.
the abrupt ending to the show and them cutting away right as after he said that, um, I think kind of made it borderline cheesy, like
Mm-hmm.
Get 'em Jones said. So I think that had they allowed him to give a little bit more, then I think um, it wouldn't have sounded so cheesy.
I guess
I
we'll.
think that
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was that's all I was saying. I think that had they allowed him to express a little bit more, than just that saying that, it would have allowed more emotion, I think, out of it,
Mm-hmm.
because there's only so much emotion you can put into 3 words. So I
Yeah.
think that it would have allowed more emotion out of it, and it would have made it not seem as cheesy, I think.
No, I agree with you on that. There's nothing for me to add. I totally agree with you with that. Um, but again, we'll see what they do now because obviously they played at that seed for the rematch. It's just a matter of time if I mean, when they're gonna pull the trigger and let people know, yep, there's gonna be a rematch.
Hmm.
And dude, oh, we're in for a treat for a rematch. If they do it again, I mean, I enjoyed the first one. I know they're gonna really rock the house in Toronto. And of course, I'd let the. Well, we'll get into that, but yeah, pretty much just gave away what we're gonna talk about. But yeah, I mean, I I enjoyed that segment. But yeah, I kind of agree with you as far as that ending part. Actually, I didn't even think about that. I thought it was a great segment, but that Conan thing, I didn't even think about. Like to cover that. So Get Up Jones, thank you for that comment and good take on that, Eric. Okay, before we go on to the impactful through the week overall, how would you rate the show? I mean, this is the second show on Twitch, and of course, Pursuit. Did they follow up well after the first show, or do you think they dropped a little bit? So from 1 to 5, would you rate it?
I would rate it probably a 4.
Okay.
um, because I can't rate it above the show that they did last week.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that they didn't drop the ball. I think they just continued at steady on the same course. So it wasn't any huge improvement, but they didn't do any worse either. So I think I gave it a solid 4.
Okay. I'm gonna disagree on this one. We agreed last week. I'm
Hmm.
gonna disagree, and I'll get into why. I'm gonna give it a 3.5, and it's mainly the one thing I wish they would do. I understand you want people to subscribe, but maybe you could use that on your Twitch. because you got a network, you got a Twitch show that's on 24/7, and since your show's been on Twitch, your audience has been a lot bigger, especially when the show's not on, when they're showing the old content. I mean, I think you should pretty much, advertise it then. Because if you look at this card from that night. All right, first one: Eddie Edwards, Ethan Page. Okay, Jordan Grayson
Hmm.
Alley. Okay, Brian Cage and Moose, Rich Swan, Troy Miguel, LAX OVE. That is a great stacked TV show card. Not even a pay per view. But then you had those two matches at the end that had potential, but because they had that segment to promote the GWN, it took away thing from that. That's the only thing. That was my biggest thing. Everything else, they did a great job. They expanded on the storylines. They did it perfectly. And the greatest thing about Impact Wrestling is their attention to detail. And they show that with their storylines. But the one thing that kills me is that they cut to an old segment. Who gives a shit right now? Because you're reminding people how it was good, but it had failed horribly. Think about the rise now. Think about the roster you have now and the great job that they continue to do week in and week out. I enjoy these shows. Not once do I go, oh, you don't get a groan from me when I watch Impact. You don't get a groan from me in MLW. Or I'll tell you, some promotions I get a groan from more than once on a 3 hour show on Monday and a 2 hour show on Tuesday. I mean, I didn't, that part annoys me because you're taking away from the current product, and that's the thing. If you want to build, if you want to show to people, hey, look at the talent we have now. This is what you do. Show these matches. Don't cut them down. Allow them a little bit more time to show what they could do. Forget the past. Leave it for the Twitch channel when you have on 24/7. That's my only thing. 3.5 other than that. If you take that away and those matches went longer, easily could have been a 4.5. Sorry about that rant. Rant over.
Oh no, no, no. I understand. Um, because I mean, think about it, and you don't see other promotions doing it. I mean, the WWE, they will every blue moon do something like that. But
Yeah.
they don't push. They're not pushing it so much. And I mean, I actually have both. I have the WWE app and the GWN app. Um,
Oh, okay.
so it's not like there's no way to. I mean, it's not overly. I mean, it's a good app. So I mean, let the app speak for itself. You don't have to take. And if you're gonna do something that's a like clips of a match. Don't show because I remember watching that match. Don't show half of the match as a segment.
Yeah.
Just show clips of the match, and then you maybe could have moved a interview segment up or back or whatever, and use that to finish out the segment. So I completely understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, that was the one thing I didn't mention is that, yeah, they cut half the damn match. So you caught the end. So you didn't get the build up to that match. You just caught the very end. So yeah, actually, that was a good point that you made right there. I did leave that out in the middle of my rant. But all right, so we got our opinions. We know how we feel. It was a great show. Some things we didn't like. But let's get into the three things that we do like. And that, of course, is the impactful three of the week. This is our version of the power rankings. It's our top three performers of the night. Um, you want to take it this week? You want to go first
Yeah,
this week? Go
yeah,
ahead.
that's no problem.
Go ahead.
I would say my impactful three are going to be Killer Cross
Okay.
because he continued that momentum of being dominant over Johnny Impact in certain instances.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that even though he wasn't full blown, featured on the show, I think he continued that with that opening segment. I think that
All
um,
right.
LAX was number two for me because even with the shortened, like you say, about 10-minute match, they showed how good they are in that amount of time. And I think the last person, the number one for me this week was Tessa Blanchard,
Wow.
because she Tessa Blanchard is just money right now.
I
She
agree
is
with that.
one of the top women, period, in the industry, and she just helped build that upcoming feud with Gail Kim so much, and she continues it with what she does. So that would be my top three.
All right, not bad list. You know what? I was conflicted because I wanted to put Tessa in here, but I'll give you my three and my reasons why. Okay, Tessa, if it was top five, easily she would have been on it. But this is
Hmm.
the impactful three. I had to choose three, and here are mine. Number three is Eli Drake. Of course, he did an incredible job to verbally build on the feud with Eddie Edwards. Obviously, he wants to take out hardcore wrestling out of Impact. And of course, Eddie Edwards has gone down that path. He talked him down, did an incredible job in commentary, incredible promo to end the segment. That is number three. It spoke volumes right there. Number two, Rich Swann, incredible match with Troy Miguel, continuing to surprise me, never ceases to amaze me. I'm happy that he's the X Division champion. I hope he's an X Division champ for a long period of time because this man is money. He's my number two. And of course, number one, even though the top two, this says a lot. The top two are from the 10-minute matches. Okay, you had Brian Cage Moose, incredible match. But LAX gets my number one. A great match with OVE,
Hmm.
incredible match. And in that short period of time, they they stole it. To me, I felt they stole it. They did another incredible match. And of course, that end segment where they pretty much arrogantly challenged the Lucha Brothers to another match. I mean, I can't wait. I can't wait. The moment I heard that, I was like, here we go. We're going to get a second good match out of these two. So that is my
Exactly.
impactful three of the week. Um, and before we go on, a couple things happened in news wise in the world of Impact Wrestling. So let's cover that, and we'll, of course, end the show there. We do thank everyone that tuned in today, too. So thank you for, and of course, our buddy Get 'em Jones, our biggest supporter of the show. Um, let's go into the first. There are a couple stories came out. Of course, the next pay per view has been announced. Not the date yet, but they have announced the pay per view. The next one will be in Toronto, Canada. Of course,
Hmm.
that's where they had Slammiversary, incredible show there, and it will be Lockdown. Lockdown would be the next pay per view for Impact Wrestling, and given that, I mean, we got a couple storylines that would fit that. How do you feel about that? Lockdown being their next pay per view?
I think that it's a good thing. I think that what I want to see, and especially with building towards that, is um, how would they do lethal lockdown? Who would they be able to put in that match? Because that match is
Hmm.
quote unquote the match
Yeah.
that you want to see at lockdown. So how would they build towards that? If you're going to build teams, teams of 4 or 5, um, to do that, even if teams of 3, who would you put in lethal lockdown? So that's the one thing that I want to see, is them develop something toward to that effect. If they're gonna do lethal lockdown, how are they gonna do it?
I'm wondering if it would be like an OVE, Rich Swan, where like there would be a feud, but it won't be for the X Division title. And then you said
Right.
Willie Mack will come back, and then they will obviously will get a third person in the mix for it. I'm sure they got to throw someone in there. That could be one possibility. Um, I don't know. Again, hopefully they won't go the WWE route like Get 'em June says, and the world title picture, and you won't have a world title
Hmm.
match. I just hope that's not it. I think that match would be best suited, even if it's only the X division. But I I will be okay with no X division match when you got OVE and then Rich Swan and Willie Mack. I mean, I think they would be able to put on a good show. Um,
Right.
but my thing I'll be more excited for is the obviously it will be the conclusion of Eddie Edwards and Eli Drake. His way of ending
Hmm.
hardcore wrestling in no better way than a steel cage match. So
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. Of course, I guess we'll find out in the near future of when this pay per view is going to take place. I'm pretty sure it would be sometime in the spring, because then you'll have Slammiversary in what, July, and
Hmm.
so yeah, I'm sure we'll be seeing that in the next few months. All they did was announce what pay per view it's going to be and where it's going to be located. We'll get the one pretty soon. Now, here's the other thing we wanted to cover, and this will be the final thing we talk about for today. And that, of course, is the injury of Matt Sydal. It came out, it was reported last week that Matt Sydal was injured recently. He has torn cartilage in his knee and would require surgery. And, of course, he will be out for a few months in result of that. My question for you, because obviously, do you feel this, how much of an impact will this have on Impact Wrestling and also for the X Division?
Well, I think it's going to have an impact because of the fact that, simply because of the fact that he was the so-called spiritual advisor for Ethan Page.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a some kind of impact. To see where it goes, um, it's kind of hard to say because it could be a storyline later on down the line of when he returns. There could be something between him and Ethan Page, or he could return and try to go for the X Division title. We just don't know. So it's gonna kind of depend on. It's gonna really depend on what happens on his return to me.
And that, yeah, you took the words ahead of the next question out, which good, it's fine. Because I was wondering how would it affect Ethan Page, but you know what? I think in a way this would be good for him, because when you're paired up with someone like that, I like that spirit, the spiritual advisor. I liked what they were doing with it.
Hmm.
I think in a way it could halt like his natural progression, what he's able to do to sell himself, to get himself over, or get himself heat. I think this little bit of time would actually be good for him. So we'll see what Ethan Page can do once now that Seidel's on the shelf and
Hmm.
he's out of action for a few months. But yeah, how they're bringing back, I'm pretty sure. I don't think it'd be thrusted into an X Division title. I think they will go against one another. Because when he comes back, he's going to try to assume the role as their spiritual advisor. Hey, you've been gone for a few months, and a lot has happened since then. And of course, the ego, because of course that's his character too. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I can see a good program between them two when he does return. But yeah, I think it will be a huge blow because again, Impact Wrestling has a good depth, but one person, it could hurt, and
Yeah.
and especially when you got a new promotion that's trying to buy up a lot of talent as well. Um, it could hurt when you lose one guy. But
Hmm.
overall, yeah. I mean, we wish Matt Sydal the speedy recovery,
Definitely.
and can't wait to see him in action because he is a great talent. Even at his age, he's up there, but you know what? He's still performing at an excellent level,
Hmm.
and it's good to see. All right. Um, Now we're into the conclusion of the show. Again, we would like to thank everyone that if you're not catching us live, thank you for catching us on the podcast. We're live. You can catch us. Of course, we'll have it ready for tonight. We're on iTunes, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Overcast, SoundCloud, and our first official sponsor, Anchor FM. And we'll be, of course, doing a read for that next week. And of course, if you listen to us on the podcast, if you want to catch us live and discuss everything in the world of Impact Wrestling, you can catch us on Periscope, Twitch, YouTube, and Mixer under the Go Home Wrestling Show. And then when we're not live, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at wrestling_go. He's at the GR81999. The great one 999. Let me say that again. The GR81999. So follow us on Twitter and chat with us. And we also chat about other things. Also, for the people that are in here, thank you for tuning in again. And you can catch us live on Friday for the next installment of the Go Home Wrestling Show, where we're going to be covering the upcoming pay per view, the upcoming takeover, um, and then of course we'll cover Raw and SmackDown. Everyone, thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Gadam Jones, for putting that in chat. Everyone, thank you for tuning in, and if you haven't followed on Twitch or any platform you're watching us, make sure you give us a follow. And we'll see you next time on the Impactful Podcast. Later, everybody.
Peace.